Restoration efforts began early Monday morning. We're in the Mont Bleu Gatineau region, and this, of course, is where the EF3 tornado tore through the region on Friday evening, winds of 265 kilometers an hour. With visuals that you can see behind us, it's incredible, Saf, that not more people were injured. We're still hearing that some people are in critical in hospital, but at this point, no deaths.
Well, when it comes to trauma and the loss of possessions, the human cost of this, the scope won't be known for days, weeks, months. Just have a look at what's behind us. The roof completely tore off that unit. Siding, eaves troughs, gnarled and twisted. If you come over here, there is debris, insulation everywhere on the ground, glass littering the ground. Look at this car, folks. Something really, really, really heavy hit this. This is why you want to be in an interior windowless room in hopefully the lowest level of a home if severe weather like this strikes. The door completely tore to shreds. We'll keep showing you devastation throughout the day today and scenes of what many are calling similar to that of a war zone. Back to you.
All right, Ontario, we're going to closely monitor the risk for severe weather Tuesday and Wednesday as a deepening fall storm tracks across the Great Lakes, once again bringing the risk mostly for damaging wind gusts, but also there is a slight tornado risk across parts of southwestern Ontario. Mainly the biggest concern here is that a lot of these storms will be nocturnal, so arriving in the evening and overnight where most people are sleeping, so you want to keep your cell phone charged and on throughout the overnight. Just in case there are any weather alerts issued in your area, you'll be notified of any severe weather in your region. Otherwise, timing of the systems, fairly scattered and non-severe thunderstorms throughout the day across most of Ontario, not helping cleanup efforts in eastern Ontario. And then the severe weather really ramps up past 8 o'clock. You can see it developing throughout Michigan and then across Lake Huron. These are the storms to watch out for. A lot of models highlighting that these will potentially go severe due to the winds, and there's also a slight tornado risk as well, kind of reaching the west end of the GTA as well throughout the late evening and overnight. Those storms will continue pressing east throughout Tuesday overnight into Wednesday morning, and that leads us into our thunderstorm risk for Wednesday, pushing across the Ottawa Valley. Severe weather is possible, extending into southern Quebec. Timing for this will be along a cold front, so some morning convection. Cold front that presses into the GTA throughout the late morning and early afternoon, bringing a weaker line of thunderstorms, and then those thunderstorms will potentially reach severe criteria throughout the Ottawa Valley early afternoon into the mid-afternoon before everything clears out around 5 or 6 p.m. across Ontario.
Well, what you're seeing is more incredible tornado footage from the Ottawa region. These trees were just shredded by these extremely powerful winds, and the numbers continue to increase. Looking at that devastation from above using drone technology there, but keep this in mind. Just a second, I'm going to go over the 6 tornadoes now confirmed in this outbreak, but the Quebec yearly average just over 4, and we saw 4 tornadoes in this Friday event alone. So here is the latest, including the tracks in red. This is 3 more in parts of southern Quebec, including near Otter Lake. Most of those were weaker tornadoes at EF1 with relatively short duration tracks. And then the 2 also down towards eastern Ontario, including the Arlington Woods at EF2 and the Calabogie tornado at an EF1. So there we have it. There's our total now. 6 tornadoes in this violent tornado outbreak.
That's our unit over there. And when it ripped our roof, my daughter, she went flying up, and I'm holding her head in the air. And I almost let go because she was slipping, and I said, if she's gonna die, I'm gonna die with her. And then it finally went past.
This happened in Gatineau, Quebec, and you can see just how powerful the storm was, with pieces of this apartment building left in a twisted pile. Investigators are still working to trace the tornado's exact path, but we know that before hitting Gatineau, it tore through part of Ottawa. Take a look. This is Dunrobin in the city's west end. Entire homes scattered. The latest we're getting right now from officials there is that at least 2 people were seriously hurt, and paramedics say they received several calls from people who were trapped, sometimes in their homes, sometimes in their cars. But all those images you just saw were from after the storm. Take a look at this. Incredible video captured the moment the tornado hit. Really gives you a sense of just how scary it was in the one place you did not want to be. CBC News meteorologist Johanna Wagstaff is here. And Joe, can you tell us, what do we know about this storm?
Well, Andrew, this was a significant tornado. Environment Canada confirming at least 1 touchdown. There may have been 2, or this may have just been a very long track tornado hopping up and down as it moved from Dunrobin to the North Gatineau region. In fact, I've got a picture to show you where those 2 reports and visual pictures we have of that tornado. So again, that's about 20-kilometer long track. Environment Canada will be heading to the scene tomorrow to assess the damage. Based on what myself and other meteorologists have seen, though, this is a significant tornado with sustained winds around the center, likely between 180 and 220 kilometers per hour. And Andrew, also rain wrapped, so very hard to see at the time.
And Joe, how common are tornadoes in this particular area?
Well, this is peak of tornado season, the clash of the seasons. Often we see the most of them in the beginning to mid-September. This is actually part of one of our tornado alleys, one that runs through the southern prairies and another that runs from southern Ontario right through to southern Quebec. In Ontario, we see about 12 to 13 tornadoes a year. It's still very rare, though, to get one affect a large community like this, Andrew.
Yeah, and no less devastating to live through that. Johanna Wagstaff, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
I'm helping my brother out. My brother and his wife and his 2 children, a 4-month-old and a 2-year-old. I'm sorry.
How are the kids?
Shaken.
They understand.
Somewhat. The 3-year-old didn't get to bed, or 2-year-old, I'm sorry, didn't get to bed before 3:30 on. She didn't fall asleep. She was scared. His wife is distraught. There was no warning.
I was in the kitchen when I saw the strong winds moving my caravan in the back. I went straight for my baby, was sleeping through the whole thing. I went to the crib and that's when everything popped.
This was the first video Ian Cassidy took. After the incident, his Mont Bleu Gatineau neighborhood was transformed into what resembled a war zone when the EF3 tornado raced in.
Everything went right through.
The wood looks like it's impaling the windows.
Yes, it is. Literally, there's glass, metal, everything. It was my living room pretty much. All my kids' toys, furniture, electronics, it was all there. And now it's all covered with glass, debris, and everything.
Finally, they're able to get in and see the damage and collect some belongings.
They literally escaped with what they had on their back. Not being able to go back and get essentials like insulin, diapers for the baby. Not having your wallet or your purse to be able to go out and buy those essentials.
We're bringing what we can.
What happens now for you guys?
One day at a time. One day at a time.
Severe weather usually peaks around July for Ontario, and then into August you can still see some active weather. What about September and October? Well, we're talking about 2 severe weather events as of late. One September 21st in the Ottawa region, we had 6 confirmed tornadoes, and then we had 4 days later another 2 confirmed tornadoes in Essex County, Ontario, and then maybe 1 probable tornado as well that they're still looking into. Guess where? Right in my hometown, Amherstburg, Ontario. When I saw the radar that evening, this was last Tuesday, I immediately texted my mom and dad and said, guys, get to the basement. We're seeing a velocity scan that shows rotation on radar, basically. And what that means is winds are going toward or away from the radar. So when they do this, you know that there's rotation. And that's what we saw with that velocity scan. Maybe you got your alert ready tornado warnings from Environment Canada through our smartphone app. If you did, I'm sure you took cover, and I hope you did. Amherstburg, Ontario, an EF0, and that's the probable tornado, still kind of being looked into. Large tree branches were down in that area. McGregor, Ontario, had winds reported of 150 kilometers an hour, with several roofs that were damaged. And then Staples, Ontario, which is a little closer to Leamington, had winds of 170 kilometers an hour, and building and structural damage was reported there. So Ontario, how does it measure against the rest of the country in terms of tornadoes, tornado numbers by the year? Well, the number 1 area to see tornadoes is Saskatchewan at 18. Alberta ranking number 2 at 15.4. And for Ontario, the average per year is 12.5, putting it in 3rd place.
I've seen many accidents, obviously, but devastation like this, I've been doing this for 34 years. I have never seen this.
I'm here in the damage path of where the high-end EF3 tornado touched down Friday evening. Now, based on the visuals that you can see behind me, this home almost completely wiped down to its foundation.
Tornado came through the backyards of these houses in the distance here. It turned a corner and came through this yard, as you can see by the trees and the debris field through here. And it carried on in a northbound direction and went through here and across the road, and that's where it took out the mall, and then continued on across the road in a northerly direction. When I pulled up the first time yesterday, it's just like a horror movie set. It's just unreal.
With the devastation behind us, you can see the power of this tornado, what winds of 265 kilometers an hour can do. This is in a neighborhood in Dunrobin What you're looking at here, this is actually housing insulation that's almost been painted all over the roads in this community. Now, the reason for this, when the tornado tore through, of course, we had a lot of rain associated with this storm that moved through. When the insulation got picked up, put on the surface, when it mixed in with that rain, it almost turned into a glue. It's been painted all over the roads. It's going to be very difficult to get this up, but what they're hoping to do is to get some maintenance workers to be able to kind of come through, power wash it off and sweep it off. This is all the steps that are needed to be done to help improve and clean up this community after the tornado.
The tornadoes tore a swath of destruction through the nation's capital, wrecking homes and uprooting trees. When it was over, the city's cell towers were still standing. But as the hours ticked by, people began to notice a strange phenomenon, including the city's manager.
My cell phone on Friday night was not working. I couldn't get a signal. I had to leave my house and drive into town till I found a couple bars so I could communicate with our emergency operations center. I was sitting in my car in my pajamas. And truth, I swear to God.
The tornadoes brought massive power cuts, and as the power cuts dragged on, cell towers around the city saw their signals weaken and then wink out.
It's not a surprise because our cell phones connect to the cellular towers, and cellular towers, they are powered by the grid, power grid. So if there's an outage of the power grid, then there will definitely be some problem with the cellular communications. So most of the time, they have backup batteries, but those backup batteries will only last for a short time.
The problem's made worse by the fact that after a natural disaster, cell phone use typically goes up as people call 911 and check on friends and family, and that draws down the batteries even faster.
They have thought about this, definitely. This is a big problem in the industry, and that's why they have backup batteries, and that's why they also sometimes have even diesel engines there. But again, if you have this kind of extreme weather, say tornado, then you would have big trouble.
Before the switch to wireless, the system wasn't this vulnerable.
The previous phone system, copper one, the phone companies tended to be able to keep them running 2-3 days without running out of generator power. So that's sort of a baseline standard I think we should try to get back to. The network, I guess I'll call it resilience, hasn't been regulated for some time. So the last quality of service, if you'll call it, regulations were retired in 2008 and 2009 in the name of, you know, the open market and this sort of thing would look after itself. But the trouble is the free market doesn't tend to spend money on emergency preparedness.
With climate change bringing ever stronger storms and cell phone networks requiring ever more electricity, many experts say it's time to think about getting more backup power to keep the networks people depend on up and running. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.